Hey, it's Giovanni. In this video, I am going to teach you how to get high quality women on the social hierarchy, even if you don't think of yourself as a guy who's high on the social hierarchy. A warning for this video. Everything that I'm about to say is just my personal opinion and it's just for entertainment purposes. Just like any tool, you can use it to express your full self and build authentic connections, or you can use it to manipulate people. I don't have control over that, but what I do have control over is to give you an efficient formula to really attract the type of partner that you would want in your life. Some of the stuff I will be saying might be controversial, okay? So take it with a grain of salt. Ultimately, you have to decide for yourself, like, this is a hypothesis that Giovanni presented. Do I see it in the world? Am I gonna go out there and test it? What's my observation? And what are the reference experiences that I've had compared to what Giovanni's had? And does this make sense for me? What I'm gonna teach you will give you a really powerful tool to attract women at a very high level. If you're a minority, if you're not traditionally good looking, if you have some type of situation, be it physical, money related, health wise, that makes you overall on the marketplace perceived as not as high value, these tools will help you get there. And the reason they're controversial is because a lot of people say, oh, we don't have these hierarchies, they don't exist. But the reality is that human beings, when you get to a certain size in the population, there is a social hierarchy. Now, we don't have this, caste system that they have in India, the untouchables, and we don't have this monarchy anymore where there are kings and queens and the barons and you have to treat like the noblemen. But we do have a social hierarchy that's driven by the capitalistic system. And what's interesting is not just capital that's setting the hierarchy, it's social intuition, social intelligence, and social value. So to be able to move through this hierarchy efficiently is what I'm really gonna give you as a gift in this video. This is the most efficient way I know how to do it. I'm open-minded enough. If you have a better way, please contact me and let me know. But this is after 10 years of testing, refining, studying this is the most efficient way that I have found to get there. How did I come up with this? Well, in the beginning, I was learning all sorts of dating tips and applying them, trial and error, okay? Very slow process. In the beginning, I was a dorky, nerdy kid. I'm still a nerd, but back then I was really nerdy. And all I wanted to do was get one cute girlfriend. And I thought, well, the easiest way to do that would just to get into these Asian social circles or go to church and find a cute girl who would like me back. And I couldn't even do that. Even the Asian girls in my social circles and the nice girls at church were just friends of me because I was just such a dork and I just didn't know how to talk to women. Once I started applying the model I'm about to teach you, I started getting really attractive Asian girls. Like actually the most attractive Asian girls within my Asian social circles. Then I wanted to date different types of girls to get more experience. And then I applied this to different girls from American, European, Brazilian, African, different cultures. And I saw it starting to work. And then at the highest level, I was fortunate enough to be in a situation where I had access to models. But in the beginning, I didn't know how to talk to them. And then when I knew how to talk to them, I couldn't attract them in a romantic way. And so I started applying this model at that very high level. And over about 2 or 3 years, I was able to refine it. And so this system came from those 3 phases of my life where I felt like the girls I was seeing, not only did I see them as higher value, but based on sexual marketplace value and based on society's perception, they were higher value than me. So I needed to close that gap really quickly. And so the psychological techniques that I researched, tested, and really applied in field and in my social circles got me to the point where I was able to date the most attractive Asian girls in my social circle. I was able to date girls from all backgrounds and I was able to date models. If you're not a minority, if you're just whatever guy you are, be it a majority, if you're a good looking guy, if you're an average guy, if you're below average, this works for you because the psychological tools I'm gonna give you is gonna close that gap, right, between the social perception of value. And it's gonna give you an opportunity to date the girls that you think like before were just like, there were a lot of barriers to get there. Before I teach you this model, some of you might be thinking, well, why am I putting in so much work to do this, right? How is it fair that I have to go through this model, whereas like another good looking guy can just jump on an app or just go to a bar and say hi and that guy gets a girlfriend in like 2 weeks, right? Guys like that, either one are the top 5% of best looking guys, okay? I know model guys who have that privilege. Or number 2, they're guys from a very young age, they learn how to talk to women and they just got really good really early on. We call them naturals. They just have this charisma about them and they know how to interact with women in a romantic way. Casanova, one of the legendary seducers of all time, was notoriously ugly. So this has nothing to do with looks. I have adapted this model for Asian guys. I call it the cultural convergence framework. And in my course, Dating Without Borders, I teach you how to do that as an Asian guy. In this video, I'm just gonna teach you how to do that as if you're a single guy. The framework encompasses 3 areas that overlap each other like a Venn diagram. First, you have familiarity. We're using the law of familiarity to our benefit, to attract. Then we're using the science of pre-selection to create that high value status. And then we're using challenge to break through those limiting beliefs, the walls, and the logical objections that women have about dating a guy like you. So let me break down these 3 areas. The law of familiarity, it basically is a diplomatic concept. To become familiar with someone, you don't necessarily have to attract them. They just have to feel comfortable around you. When you're a minority and you're talking to a girl and you look different than she does, immediately there's this fight or flight response because our brains are hardwired based on evolutionary pressures to respond in terms of fight or flight to someone who's from a different tribe, right? Whenever you meet someone who seems foreign to you, there's 3 reactions automatically in your nervous system: fight, survival; flee, survival; mate, replication. Again, it all goes back to biology, survival and replication. So you have to overcome this initial chasm of familiarity, especially if you're not traditionally good looking. As an Asian guy, I look different than the girls I wanted to date. And so that became an issue. Then for models, it's like most of the guys I see, they have so many options. It's like, how do you close that gap? One of the first steps I took was to understand the style attraction triggers that really get you there, that save you a lot of the work that you have to do. So for that, check out Seduce with Style or download the 8 style attraction triggers. It's free. It's in the link in my bio. The second step is verbal. I'm making the girl feel comfortable in a way that other guys can't. There are many ways to do this. I'm going to give you 2 right now in this video. Number 1, right after I start the conversation, I'm always trying to express myself as honestly as I can. And one of the ways I do this is I'll tell a somewhat vulnerable story, but I'll tell it in a way where my nonverbals are very strong. For example, I was really bullied in high school because I was a total dork, total nerd. People used to call me rat face. And so that is why now, years later, whenever my friends get unfairly judged or people are putting them down, I have to step in and say something. So I'm telling a vulnerable story, but I'm basically reframing that story in a way where my vulnerability gave me the opening to develop this core strength. And as I'm telling it, my nonverbals are very, very strong. So even though the story sounds vulnerable to the girl and she's like, oh, you're being vulnerable, I'm also displaying this masculine trait underneath it. So think of it as like above water, below water, right? Above water is her conscious awareness, below water is the raw, emotional, in the fray energy field in dating. And so when I do this, they feel like they get to know me and they feel like as I'm telling these vulnerable experiences, these are key moments in my life that shaped my decision points of who I am today. The more vulnerable your story is, the more people can relate to it. Because guess what? Everyone knows that feeling of being put down, being judged, being told that they weren't good enough, right? So when you hit these universal emotions, but you're tailoring it to your own story, it's super, super attractive in dating. Another tip I have for you is just to acknowledge the difference in your value or your perception of value, I should say. For example, one of my best openers when I first started, especially with models and girls that look different than me, and I didn't have my style down, I didn't quite fit in just based on my visual looks. I'll say, I know we look like 2 completely different people, but I thought you might be interesting and I wanted to introduce myself, okay? Very, very key point here is that you're acknowledging the fact that you look different. So normally a girl will go into her fight or flight response like, it's this guy hitting on me. But the fact that I said, yeah, we do look different, I'm basically acknowledging it and bringing it into her conscious awareness. And now that awkwardness can dissipate because I brought it up. In a very, very nuanced way, I'm also saying there's a little bit of social pressure, right? Like, yeah, we are 2 different people. Are you gonna reject me because of that? So there's actually social pressure within that frame for her to like actually give you a shot. Make sense? So it's a super powerful opener when you obviously like don't fit in or you're just new to like the modeling world or you're new to the acting world. You're new to the environment and you're embracing it in a way that you know that you're different, yet you're saying, despite our differences, why don't we see what's up? This is a very powerful diplomatic technique that ambassadors use kind of to bridge that gap, right? The cultural gap when you go to a new country. It's like, yes, we have 2 different cultures, but let's see if we can find something similar. It's a very, very powerful frame that I learned from my father, and it really works in dating, especially when you're meeting people that you're not normally part of that group. When you establish familiarity, right? A lot of guys are like, well, I want to date the girl, I want to attract her. But here's the thing, when you're familiar with someone, they let you in. And you become genuine friends with those girls. And here's why. Number one, you will get very valuable information about where those girls hang out, what kind of social groups they are, who they're connected to. Even in big cities like LA or New York, you'd be surprised, man. The C-list models know all of this other C-list models, and they know some of the B-list models, and the B-list models know all the other B-list models, and they follow the A-list models. So that network, once you get into it, is actually quite connected. And you're gonna get a lot of valuable intel in terms of not only where to go, but the times in which to go. There are certain locations in LA, for example, at certain hotel bars, in certain mansion parties, right? And certain behind like the private seating at like certain restaurants, right? Like where these people hang out. And there's no way to gather that intel unless you're part of that group. The second thing you're doing is you're establishing a bridge to the next phase, which is pre-selection, which is I'm genuinely being friends with these people. But guess what? You're establishing the fact that you now have girls like that in your life. And this takes us to the next step, which is the science of pre-selection. Men don't necessarily find other women attractive when other men are in their lives. But women particularly find men attractive when that guy has other women like her or perceived higher value than her in his life. And this is because women have to assess men based on not just replication value, right? Physical looks or health indicators, but survival value as well. And so over 100,000 to 250,000 years of evolution, their minds are actually hardwired to respond to a guy's behavior pattern. One of the fastest ways you can tell, it can be hacked by the way, but one of the fastest ways to see behavior pattern is to see that other women have already chosen. Because it takes time to evaluate a person's true behavior, when a woman chooses a guy, she's cutting that shortcut by like a factor of 10, right? It's like, oh, other women like me or higher value than me already chose him. There must be something about him. If you're a sociopath, right, you can just hire models and stuff, go to an event, take pictures, you know, you can set up the whole thing where it appears that you have women like that. The Tinder swindler guy did that, right? That's how he was able to get so many victims. So please don't use this and manipulate it. But what I'm saying is authentically build that circle where you have friends like that, genuine friends, like you're not trying to sleep with them. These are people that you actually care about, are loyal to, and you're gonna be there for them and vice versa. Over the next few weeks, when you talk, you're going to find this ease at talking about what her life is like. Because when you're in a certain social group or industry, there's going to be industry specific vocabulary and keywords, right? Certain modeling social circles, everyone knows what an MUA is. If you're in the film industry, everyone knows what a headshot is, right? And this little patterns of speech, okay, are gonna come up and she's gonna get right away without you saying anything that you understand her world. And for an Asian guy, this was big because a lot of times as an Asian guy, when I first started dating girls that were outside of my culture, it was like, does this guy even get me? Like, is he just like fresh off the boat? So by doing these little things, just normal conversation, she can tell very quickly within 30 seconds if I get it. Okay? Human beings make very fast blink assessments of things. And once they do, they kind of put you in that category. It's a weird psychology thing. And sometimes you get it wrong, but the thing is that's what they do. And so you want to pass that quick blink assessment. And so these little vocabularies is how I do it. My mentor used to tell me, if you want to date exotic dancers, you must first tell her stories or exemplify that you have that type of girl in your life or you understand what it's like to date that type of girl. You're telling her the story very quickly that you get her life, her world. You understand it. As an Asian guy, it was really easy for me to get typecasted, especially when I didn't have my style down correct, right? And if you're an Asian guy, check out the style triggers that's gonna help you with that in the link in the description. It's like, this Asian guy's nerdy. He's probably never dated a girl like me before. He's probably got all Asian friends. These are just like stereotypes that just automatically happen. And so when you start establishing pre-selection, when you start having these people around, then the next step what you want to do is document it, right? Not document it like in an ego bragging sort of way. Just, I'm going to capture the beautiful moments in my life. I'm not going to obsess over it, but I'm going to like present it in a way where that everyone can enjoy. And over time, your social media, your social outings, it's a stacking effect. It will build up. And eventually your behavior patterns will catch up and your nonverbals and your honest signals will be so congruent that you're just like, yeah, these are the girls I have in my life. People don't know that they're just your friends. You're not sleeping with them, but it's just like you're now at ease when you're around these type of women and you're just like very calm. Okay, it just becomes very normal for you. It becomes normalized. Eventually, through that circle, you're going to meet one of her friends that's going to find you attractive, right? Just based on the law of numbers. And I remember my first model girlfriend, it was like a big deal. Then after that, there's a certain thing that happens in tribal human psychology, which is like you establish a reputation, right? Like everyone knows that Leo dates models. Everyone knows that George Clooney used to date models. But within your small microcosm of social circles, there's this thing where once your status is established, people kind of accept it as reality. So your first model or your first perfect 10, if you will, or perfect 8, if you will, then If that works out, great. Or you get the second one. By the third one, I knew for sure like this was a repeatable pattern. And it just became super confident, not from like a false sense of security, but from a level of competence that I knew that if I had familiarity pre-selection, that I could date these girls consistently. And by the way, the familiarity and pre-selection, it doesn't have to be like over many months of effort. It could be like that night as well. And I'll show you how in a second. The third step is challenge, right? Once you have familiarity, you establish that you get her world, you're part of her world. Then it's like, how do you challenge her? Now, most guys challenge her right away and she's just like, who is this jerk, right? Challenge really is being able to fully express yourself and actually even give her a hard time. Not give her a hard time to put her down or for, just for your own amusement. Giving her a hard time, like forcing her to grow a little bit, and you're growing together, okay? I once challenged a girl who was a pretty strong businesswoman, and I'm like, well, what are some things you do for fun? And are you always so business oriented? How's that working out for you? I did this after I had familiarity and she trusted me. And over time, she became more feminine. She was still like a business hustler, but she understood that being feminine can also be fun and be celebrated. At the club, one of my favorite lines I use to pick up like what we call turbo girls, they were the most attractive, sought after girls at the club. I'll go up to this girl, Shelby, and I'll be like, so Shelby's like, how much money did you pay all these guys to stand next to you? And she was like, I didn't pay them. They're just here because I'm cool. So I was able to walk up to a girl that was surrounded by guys, right? And start that conversation with her. Another really great line, especially in LA, I was like, okay, so what are you like really proud of besides your looks? And it can't be about your Instagram followers and it can't be about your TikTok or your YouTube channel. So I'm removing all the superficial layers out of the equation. I'm saying, tell me about yourself besides your looks. Like, what are you really proud of? And what's interesting about that is if you actually genuinely listen to her at that moment, she's gonna feel a level of appreciation that she hasn't felt before. Because here's why. No matter how beautiful the girl is, how much her face is in perfect symmetry, every girl at some point was a little girl growing up, wanted the love of her mother and her father, wanted to grow up to find a man who appreciates her, who sees her, she can feel safe around, who can lead her to amazing life, right? That's the female fantasy. And that expectation can be met by you. You are the solution to her problem. And so when you challenge her in this way, right, you are effectively giving her an opportunity to step into that experience. George Clooney once said, when he went on auditions, he was trying to get the job. When his acting career changed was when he realized that the casting director, that manager interviewing for the job, they want to find someone. They're hoping that you're the solution. So when you challenge her, you're like, I am the solution. Let's grow together. What do you have going for you? Because I want to bring everything there. So you're challenging her in a way that's really, really attractive. And one thing I learned as a minority is that you can't challenge her right away because challenge requires trust. If you don't have familiarity and you don't have pre-selection, right? Familiarity is you can be comfortable, you can trust me. Pre-selection is I have the value, right? Not only can you trust me, I'm not just an orbiter or best friend, BFF. I'm literally a guy who gets girls like you. So you have connection, comfort, and attraction. Then when you challenge her and you build that emotional bond, that's when you start the falling in love process. Because she's like, whoa, this guy is different. He appreciates me, not just for my beauty. And when you do these three things, familiarity, pre-selection, and challenge, when you do them over time, the more time she spends with you, the more she's going to start really liking you and eventually falling in love with you. When you do this with normal girls as in like your current status of girls, they're gonna fall really fast. And when you do them with girls that are like higher hierarchy, it takes more time, but it works. The more time you spend with her. Keep in mind, the type of girls that we're talking about here, they're not in shortage of attention, right? Like their Instagram DMs, it's like 50 to 100 messages like every month. They can't get on dating apps because they just get too many matches. They're constantly bombarded by flowers, gifts from men. So it's not like it's gonna happen right away, but what you do differently than all these other guys is you stand out from the noise. You stand out from the crowd because you understand these psychological concepts that diplomats use to connect with foreign leaders. Can I establish comfort and familiarity? Can I establish that I get their world? Can I present my frame and my story while challenging her in that way? When you do these three things correctly, things start to happen really fast. In the beginning, it might feel slow, but once you hit that tipping point, they flip like a pancake. Why? Because no other guy is doing this. No other guy is challenging her, making her feel this way. No other guy is so patient and so smooth. No other guy is presenting a frame where I have pre-selection. I understand girls like you and I can date anybody else, but I appreciate you. It's a really powerful concept. I actually backward engineer this from just observing guys who were naturally good with girls and guys who were very good looking. Because at a point in my life, I had a lot of like male model friends and I was like, what are they doing that's like naturally there? Now they already have they don't need to establish pre-selection pre-selection because their looks is their pre-selection. But the really good ones that actually got somewhere consistently over and over again were those that were able to establish a feeling of safety through familiarity, and they challenged them. They're very good at push and pull. And so when I reverse engineer that, I'm like, can I apply this for myself? Can I teach it to clients who aren't as genetically gifted as those guys? And I found that it does work and that it can be very precise in getting you the girl you want, getting the highest level girl that you believe that you deserve. Now, if you don't want to do the work, how do you do this in one night? I can go to a bar, and the first thing I do is I familiarize myself with people. So maybe the first night or the first hour, I just talk to the doorman, the bouncer, people that are there early, and I just literally make friends, right? Establish familiarity. The second thing I do is I realize that at the course of a night, right, from like 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. or 4 a.m., wherever you are, I just need one person from one group to really connect with me. Then I have my core group of friends, right? I can make friends like that easily within one night. And how to do that, I can teach you in another video. Then I can always return to that group. And then I have pre-selection. I have my group of friends, and there are cute girls in that group. And as I talk to new girls, right, some of them will go well, some of them won't. But the ones that go well, all you need is one cute girl to like give you that attention, give you that like, and you're like established pre-selection already. And then from there, what I call follow the green light. So other girls will see that you're already talking to a cute girl, and they will kind of glance at you, and eventually you can actually connect with all of them, the next green light, the next green light. And then you can choose from all the girls you talk to that night, which one you like the most. Then you challenge them in your conversation, push, pull, banter, fun, but you also get connected. So you have the fun attraction, then you have the deep connection questions that I teach you in the other video. And these two combos are super powerful. It's like, I'm an attractive guy, I can banter, I can flow with you and talk emotional, but I also can ask you deep questions and really get to know you as a person, right? So these two areas, attraction and connection, are so powerful. Then once you establish that challenge frame, that's when the girl goes home with you, or you get a super solid number. I break down the familiarity, pre-selection, and challenge framework in my course, Dating Without Borders, for minorities and Asian guys. So check that out. It's a very good course, and the reviews have been excellent, life-changing for a lot of Asian guys. So check that out. This whole process exponentially easier, more effective if you have your style down. So check out the 8 style attraction triggers and the link in the description below. If you have any questions, you may want to subscribe to my channel so that I can answer specific questions that you have every month. You may also want to like the video so you get new notifications next time I post something that's of equal or higher value to you. I'm only going to improve from here on. I hope I was able to serve you, and I'll see you in the next one.